Polite Enquiries. George Dobell, Jarod, Kimber, Headingley.
The zebra.
Oh, so we're not going to mention it and you break it in.
It's the zebra in the room.
Peter says, in this form, would Cook still be in the team if he wasn't captain?
That his records demands a certain amount of patience and respect.
And respect.
But at what stage do you start to say, come on, Alistair, back to county cricket? That two people have come into the side in the last couple of games and scored centuries in their third innings in Test cricket, something like that, in Balance and Robson. So there's clearly some talent out there. So he's not irreplaceable. He's not undroppable.
Anthony says, how long does Cook get before a genuine discussion about his place in the side?
And I thought his pre-match behaviour was a bit
odd.
testy, and suggested he was tiring of the baggage of being Test captain. I still think that Ian Bell will be captain this time of the year. Well, you agree, don't you?
I don't know if I'm certain that will happen, but I'm certain that Ian Bell will become captain sooner rather than later.
And your view? Straight from the zebra's mouth.
Daniel says, is vice captaincy a curse for young Sri Lankan batsmen? I mean, they've got about 83 captains and 70. Why do you need a vice captain when Mahela and Kumar are still out there? Do you know what I mean?
He got a really good ball first up, didn't he? And he got a really good ball from Jimmy Anderson the other day as well. So
Matthew says, should the Aussies have bribed Robson harder to stay and play for them?
We've been banging on about this for a couple of years, to be fair, haven't we? And I don't think he made a conscious decision to play for England or Australia. I think he just wanted to play cricket for a living.
He told me he looks better in blue.
I just wouldn't read too much into it. He's a guy with two passports.
He seems very nice, maybe too nice to be Australian.
He's not an Australian-style batsman, though, is he?
No, not at all.
Oh, they're so obsessed with playing aggressive cricket. Look what happened to Eddie Cowan.
Who? Jamshed says, have the Sri Lankan attack bowled as well as they could have on this track? I think Aranga's the only guy at this stage who is test match quality at their seamers, and Harath's going to be up and down depending on the pitch.
By test standards, they're about as modest as you get in the top sort of 7 or 8 sides, aren't they?
I think that's right. James says, do we have to stop calling for Compton's return? I still believe. You're basically engaged to Compton, aren't you?
I think he's a really good player. I think England missed a trick not taking him to the Ashes.
I love him. I want to kiss him on his body.
Oh, that's a bit much. It doesn't matter what he does. He could invent the cure for cancer. They're not going to pick him.
Did they like him?
They don't like him. I don't know why they don't like him. I think he's nice, but...
Clearly. Ambarish says,
Barry,
who of the youngsters in England have impressed you the most? I really like Balance. I think he's composed, he's ugly. Batting style. I'm not going to talk about his face at this stage, but he's
got a toddler's face.
He does.
He does have a toddler's face. There's so many guys in the England team, maybe we're getting old, but I wouldn't serve them in a bar. But they look so young, don't they? Jordan, I think, is really exciting.
I really like Jordan.
Ben Stokes is fantastically exciting. Not in the side right now. Stephen Finn's not very old. There's quite a lot to be optimistic about, isn't there?
Yeah, a lot of good spinners coming through. Popsy says, if you're in the crowd on Fancy Dress Saturday, which character would you like to dress up as? I'd dress up as George Dobell, and no one would recognise me.
They wouldn't recognise you, that's true, because they would think you were Brad Pitt.
Alt Cricket says, Ian Bell is captain, oiled up in a birdcage or caught in anti-pigeon spikes.
The Ian Bell that I've seen at county level is a proper leader. And so if they can get that side of him, the innovative captain that I've seen, then he could be marvellous.
You're basically saying he would be caught in anti-pigeon spikes?
No, I believe in him.
You believe in everyone. Neil Harris says, does Headingley have an international future?
It's got a staging agreement till 2019, so it has to host a test every year until then. And there's only one test team touring that year, Australia. I don't think on merit it deserves that test.
Oliver Goldstein says,
Goldo,
before Matthews took Balance, him and Pradeep in tandem had bowling average of 74 and 78. Is that the worst pair in test history?
Well, Neil Radford had a bowling average of 100. I wouldn't read too much into averages. I thought they bowled all right.
Krishna says, for what amount of money would you get a haircut like Nuan Pradeep's? I could probably mull it without any money, really.
It's a really weird moment in my life.
Jeremy asks, should fielding sides who waste time, like the helmet request straight after tee, have a run penalty? They should be beaten with the helmet. That was ridiculous cricket. So, you know you're coming out, you know you're going to need the helmet at one stage or another. You should come out with it straight away.
They could stop players being on the pitch. They could reduce the amount of players on the pitch for a few overs as a penalty. But look, you've got to look around the grounds and wonder why they're not full. It's getting ridiculous.
Rory Dollard said, 1 over for your life. You need a hat-trick, Hugh Trumbull or Stuart Broad.
Well, I think I'm going to go for Stuart Broad because since Trumbull died, he's lost a bit of pace.
I think Trumbull's actually still pretty good, and I eat at his cafe in the MCG regularly, so I'm going with him. Praveen says, some said England already moved on, KP, Trott and Swan. What do you guys think?
Well, they haven't moved on from Swan, have they? He's the most irreplaceable player of the generation.
Stop. They're calling it a new era. Catch up. We'll see you tomorrow.